Hey, Viola Rolls Reacts here, and welcome to another blind commentary. I'm going to be continuing Historical Equestria with Historical Equestria 4, Reign of Shadows. So this is obviously about the rule of Sombra and probably a little bit more.
Hello again.
Hello.
Welcome back to the historical wing of the Canterlot Archives. So, what can I help you with today? Still continuing with the condensed history of Equestria?
Yes, I am.
Let's see. If memory serves, you were at Volume 4, correct?
Correct.
I hope it's still in stock. We've been getting a lot of requests for this series. Here we are. Reign of Shadows. Shall we take a look at it together?
Yes.
Volume 4 begins with the early years of the Royal Sisters' reign, an age called the Celestial Renaissance.
Okay. So, picking up where we left off.
The first order of the Renaissance was the rebuilding of Equestria. Discord's reign had left everything in a terrible state, and wild magic still possessed much of the land. The princesses used their great powers, which we now know to be the elements of harmony, to re-establish order. The chaos receded, and the princesses then commissioned the erection of a temple, intent on containing the wild magic themselves. And so long as they resided there, the forest around them was peaceful. And though it was intended to be a sacred building, this magnificent structure eventually became the palace of the Royal Pony Sisters.
Right, the castle of the two sisters.
Following the sealing of Discord, the princesses then rebuilt the High Pony Council to advise them. Though now its rulers, Luna and Celestia, were still foreign to Equestria. They followed the guidance of its elders, those who still remembered how Equestria used to be. Through their wise instruction, the nation slowly began to regain its greatness. Many of the advancements they had achieved had been lost during Discord's rule, almost crippling equestrian civilization. Nevertheless, the princesses had inspired a new age of prosperity and understanding. They struggled to regain their advances, and many prominent artists emerged. And while it would be some time before they regained the level of technology they had known before, within a century, peace had returned to Equestria. Among the princess's greatest early successes was the alliance formed with the Crystal Empire.
Right.
While re-establishing the kingdom, the princesses were given a personal invitation from the Crystal King for a private audience. It was during this meeting that he finally revealed himself to be an alicorn.
Oh.
Alicorns are an exceptionally rare species of pony, and up till this point in history, thought only to exist in legend. The appearance of the Royal Sisters had been shocking enough, but for the Crystal King to have also been one was astounding. Because of their uniqueness, the sisters formed a strong bond of friendship with the Crystal King, named King Diaphanous, who accepted the young princesses as family. As it turned out, many of the Crystal King's closest advisors and nobles were all directly related to him, as he had taken a wife from among the Crystal Ponies some years ago. Many of them even affectionately referred to him as grandfather. The friendship between Equestria and the Crystal Kingdom was seen as a great success, and the princesses continued to learn from the Crystal King. But as the years progressed, the ponies of Equestria began to realize that their rulers were not the same.
Right.
No matter how many decades passed them by, the two princesses did not age. What's more, their magic was much stronger than the average unicorns. Alicorns had been elevated to a near-holy status among equestrian ponies, and so many accepted their rulers as they were. But there were two groups of ponies that had more extreme reactions. One was a group that openly worshipped princesses as gods, calling themselves the Herd of Astros. Their attentions were awkward for the princesses, but their loyalty was unquestionable, and their numbers small, so they were left alone. The other group was disturbed by the princesses' apparent immortality, and as they approached the end of their first century of rule, the Celestial Diarchy faced its first challenge to its authority. This group, known as the Immortalis Defiant, claimed it was unnatural for such long-lived beings to rule over ponies who lived only a fraction of their lifespans. They rose up against the
I guess I
princess's
can
reign,
see how they have a
calling
point.
for their removal from the throne.
But wanting them to step down, that's a little bit
Rather
extreme.
than fighting their own subjects, the princesses wanted to find a way to peacefully convince the Defiants. It was Princess Celestia who made the bold decision to surrender herself to the rebels, submitting herself to their imprisonment while refusing to abdicate. Princess Luna was left to rule alone in her absence, only able to trust in her sister. Celestia was not treated well by her captors. Her imprisonment lasted for 3 long months, and the Defiants were becoming uncomfortable with their own actions. Meanwhile, the Equestrian army attempted a rescue by infiltrating their camp through a series of caverns, unaware those caves were inhabited. They stumbled on the gates of Tartarus and awakened its guardian, the 3-headed hound, Cerberus. The Devil Dog chased his intruders into the Defiance camp, where its rampage threatened to kill every pony. It was then that Celestia stepped forward and raised a defensive shield around both the soldiers and the rebels, facing Cerberus alone despite her injuries. She managed to defeat Cerberus with only a simple sleeping spell, returning him to his cave before he could injure any pony. The rebels were amazed. The very pony they had feared for her great magic had just saved them with it, and she had never once turned her horn against them during her captivity. Moved by her actions, the Defiants surrendered.
Wow.
On an unrelated note, the Gateway of Tartarus has always been a subject of curiosity here in Equestria. It's one of many sites that originates from the time of Hepanopolis and features in Pegasus mythology, along with the legend of Icarus, the first Pegasus, and Olympus, the legendary mountain atop the clouds.
Right, yeah.
Pegasus mythology is a
Greek
fascinating
mythology.
subject. I definitely recommend reading up on it sometime. But I'm getting off subject.
Right, yeah. Let's get back on track.
Support for Celestia's rule roared in response, and the princess began to take a more active role in her nation's leadership. On the other hoof, there is little mention of Princess Luna during this time, and what there is seems to have a disapproving tone for her lack of action. But Luna was only doing as her sister had instructed. Now that we are aware of the truth surrounding Princess Luna, there is some speculation among historians that this event was the beginning of Luna's ostracizing by the royal court. Following the end of the Defiance Rebellion,
And her
there was a
start
long era of
into
peace
the
in
descent
Equestria.
into Nightmare Moon.
More than a century passed without notable incident, and trade with their sister country of the Crystal Empire was more abundant than ever. It was during one of his visits to Equestria that the Crystal King Diaphanous took interest in a young and talented unicorn colt by the name of Sombra. He encountered the boy at the Royal Library, where a young Sombra was studying quietly by himself. The neglected son of a nobleman, Diaphanous was intrigued by Sombra's acute mind and seeming apathy. Sombra was powerful for his age, and a very avid student. Intrigued by this boy, Diaphanous requested to take him in as his protege. He saw within him the makings of a great wizard. Sombra's parents were delighted and instantly agreed, and so the young Sombra was taken to be raised in the Crystal Empire as the Crystal King's personal assistant. Before he overtook the Crystal Empire, Sombra was not known to be cruel or evil. He was ambitious, certainly, but he was also fiercely loyal to the Crystal King and his family. It was both his ambition and his desire to aid his king that drove Sombra to begin research into dark magic, an art forbidden in Equestria. But the library of the Crystal Empire contained innumerous magical texts, and even the Crystal King believed that dark magic could prove beneficial, if carefully disciplined.
Right, which
Whatever
it
his
wasn't.
intentions, Sombra was ultimately corrupted by the dark magic. Sombra went on a rampage, stealing the Crystal Heart and killing not only the Crystal King, but his family as well.
Oh,
Once he was done, he used his overwhelming dark power to enslave the Crystal Ponies, turning the once glimmering capital into a fortress of dark crystal. Only 2 survived Sombra's massacre of the royal family, and they fled to Equestria to seek the aid of her princesses. Luna and Celestia were horrified to hear what had become of their dear friend and his family. and Sombra, pursuing the survivors of Diaphanous' kin, ordered his ensorcelled army to attack. The princesses were facing their first war. Equestria's armies managed to hold back Sombra's hordes, but they knew the ponies they fought weren't in control of themselves. To stop the battle, they had to stop Sombra himself and break his hold over them. Celestia made the decision to assault his castle and pit her powerful magic against his dark spells. Princess Luna, refusing to be left behind a second time, joined her sister in her assault. Together, the two princesses descended upon the Crystal Empire in the dead of night. Neither of the princesses have recounted exactly what happened in that battle. It is known that Sombra had expected their attack, and that his dark powers were overwhelming to either princess alone. But together, Luna and Celestia were undefeatable.
I like
For
that
together,
Celestia is
they
using
wielded
an
the elements
axe.
of harmony. Not even Sombra's great power could withstand the potent magic of the elements, a fact of which he was very much aware. And so, before the princesses had descended upon him, Sombra cast a curse that encompassed the entirety of the Crystal Empire. The battle was hard fought, and just when the princesses thought victory was in their grasp, they watched in horror as Sombra's curse took effect, and the entire Crystal Empire vanished before their eyes.
It disappeared for
only thing that
1,000
remained
years.
was Sombra's dark whisper across the bitter snows, promising to return. Volume 4 concludes on an ambiguous note, and understandably so, as the very next volume in the series delves into the darkest moment of the Royal Sisters' rule. But
Nightmare
that's a
Moon.
book for your next visit. Let me know how you liked Volume 4, and I'll see
I
you
liked
next
it a
time.
lot. Okay, so that was volume 4. Yeah, if that is based off of the stuff from the comics, because I know the comics delved more into Sombra than the show did. Him murdering the Crystal King's family and everybody who opposed him. Wow, that's extreme. It also explains why, Cadence calling Celestia and Luna her aunt seem a little bit off. It's not that they're actually blood related.
Sup, everypony?
Hello,
Hope you liked the new episode and all that jazz.
I did.
You probably noticed, but this episode takes a lot of its influence from two other bronies here on YouTube, and I wanted to give them a shout out here at the end. Those two bronies being the famous Ink Rose of the reviewing community and Nastasia Solitude, the animator. Ink Rose is well known for her reviews and headcanon takes on Equestria's history and the origins of her favorite princesses and villains. I owe a lot of credit to her, not just for being part of the inspiration for this episode, but for historical Equestria as a whole. It was her amazing videos that inspired me enough to start the series, so be sure to show her lots of love and support.
Okay.
Nastasia Solitude is recognized for the creation of the fan animation A Tale of One Shadow, a beautiful piece exploring Sombra's origins. My headcanon is derived from a mixture of both, so please be sure to check out their channels. And now, the part you've been waiting for. I'm here to announce the next featured segment on historical Equestria. I tallied your votes just the other day and have our result. I gotta say though, some of you weren't listening to the rules. I got a lot of requests for stories about Celestia and Luna. Believe me, I adore the princesses, and I'd absolutely love to put out my headcanon about their history. But it has to wait. Like I said before, I'm trying to keep HE as close to show canon as possible, and so I'm avoiding details on the princesses until the series reveals more about them. A good idea, seeing as how we've already gotten a bit with the history of the Wonderbolts in recent episodes. The information revealed there might have me tweaking upcoming episodes to make sure it's in alignment.
Oh.
And yes, I know that historical Equestria isn't in line with the comic book canon.
Oh, it isn't.
But guys, neither is the show. Just look at the character Daring Do. In the comics, she's a fictional character, and her author is actually Twilight's mother. But in the show, we've had an episode showing us that Daring Do isn't just a fictional character, but she and all of her adventures are real. That's a pretty big difference in canon territory, and it opens up a whole world of possibilities for historical Equestria. Well, I'm getting off subject. So, the next set to be covered on historical Equestria as voted for by you is the history of Zebraca. Once we finish the condensed history of Equestria, we'll be taking a look at the history of Zecora's people. I've already started looking up references and piecing the overall tale together. Hopefully I'll be able to get the script started soon. I fell a bit behind this episode because of a cold, which you've probably noticed in my voice this recording, so I'd like to catch up if I can. Although, I will admit, I actually had more votes for Sombra and the Crystal Empire. But given the content of this episode, I think you can understand why I went with Zebraca. But, if you'd like a more in-depth look at Sombra and the Empire in the future, you can always vote for him again when the polls open back up. That about wraps up this show. I just have one final announcement for you before signing off. E4W Productions recently released the first episode of our new radio play, A Tale of Strategy, based on the popular video game Fire Emblem The Blazing Sword, released by Nintendo for the Game Boy in 2006. Do you like high fantasy and grand tales about adventure and romance? Then please give the show your support. Check out the first video on our other channel. Thanks for your votes, everypony. We'll see you at the archives next episode.
Okay, and that was Volume 4. I liked it. Okay, so it isn't based off of it takes a little bit from the show and a little bit from fan stuff, but nothing from the comics, really. So, okay, that's interesting and good to know. So, yeah. And I really like this volume, and the only pony that she shouted out at the end, the only person that she shouted out at the end that I recognized was Ink Rose. The other one I did not. But if I can find links to both of them, I know that Ink Rose's channel is still there. I'll put a link to her channel in the description, and the animator as well, if I can find their channel, if it's still up. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys next time.